mentoring other young men to get into the military, stay out of the streets. I got some of them into college. It wasn't a white and black thing. It wasn't a Max and Lewis thing. It wasn't a Mercedes and Red Bull thing. It was an athlete. And I have competed several times in bodybuilding and other things. And I was like, they just cheated an athlete. You have to have got these measurements from somewhere. So I would like to know which teams you pulled those measurements from to say that we have teams that are going over 4 millimeters of flexing when it's only supposed to be 2 millimeters. We cannot look at Daniel right now. If we compare Daniel right now to his Red Bull self, he's definitely taken some steps back. He hasn't been able to get there. I don't know if he's not mentally there. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it. I don't know if it's in him anymore. Like, people have to get over this whole thing. Like, it seems like the worst thing is to see like a woman in a man's sport.
Hello and welcome back to your favorite podcast, Jorgy's Tripping Dipping. This is not your usual co-host, nor your unusual co-host. This is your once in a lifetime, once in the blue moon host, Georgina Donna. Today, we have a very special guest. He's a content creator who is not just an amazing creator, but also the ladies love his work. Shout out to Nili. So, without any further ado, let's welcome our man of the hour, Wolfpack Performance. How are you, man?
That was probably by far one of the best intros I've had. That was pretty good.
Thank you.
You are quite unusual and maybe a blue moon there. That was pretty good. I like that one.
How are you? How's life in US?
Life is challenging, but good. And as long as you wake up topside, you have an opportunity every day to make it better. So that's how I look at it.
Amazing, amazing. All right. So please do tell us a little bit about yourself to our listeners.
All right. So, I'm Wolfpack Performance. Most people refer to me as Jay or just Wolfpack or Wolf. I make content, started out making content about DIY projects as far as building cars. I've been in cars since I was a kid. Rolled that into racing, and then I did a little bit of film work for Fast Five, as having a car on set and working with those guys when they were in Atlanta. And then from there, I just started building cars, and then got a car in a magazine, and then it's just been my love and passion for that, as well as my family, of course, and managing that. And then, of course, I did spend quite a bit of time supplying Atlanta and some of the South, definitely with car parts, because my whole initiative was to create a business that would allow people to purchase parts, but without getting their eyes gouged out or asking them for their firstborn, because the equalizer of every build is money. And then I started saying I'm going to make content to help people understand maybe some of these products that do and don't work, maybe how you can do things on your car. And then I rolled into Formula One. As far as content, I have been watching Formula One off and on for some years, and then really started focusing on it in the later part of these last few years, and then started making content on it. And then from there, just been rolling up ever since. And I've been embraced, and I got a great community. Those people are awesome. It's a great vibe. We do great things. We just finished sponsoring 68 kids with back to school backpacks with the program I call the Challenge 44. It's basically like a challenge. And we started out with 44 backpacks, me and the Wolfpack family over at YouTube. And then we had another additional backpacks donated. So we ended up with 68 backpacks for kids to go back to school.
Wow, that is mind-blowing and amazing. Wow, oh my God. That is a huge work for the community. Speaking of your YouTube channel, you have a very prominent YouTube channel. So let's talk about your channel as well.
Yes. The channel, really, I had to end up splitting the channel. So now there's a separate channel for just the car content as far as building a car, and now the content for the motorsports and Formula One specific. But the channel had to end up getting divided. I really didn't know how it was going to be received. I really didn't even really plan to become a content creator in the Formula One space, as much as I just had decided I was going to use my platform to speak out against something that I felt was just outrageous. And over here in the States and everywhere in the world, the things that happen that are unjust and and illegal to citizens by authorities that are in positions that are supposed to be protecting us, right? And as a military member, I take that very seriously. So
Yeah.
I think I had just kind of built up to a head, and then I was already working on, basically mentoring other young men to get into the military, stay out of the streets. I got some of them into college, and I'm sitting there watching the races. And that's one thing that I actually sit and do. Like everything else, I'm working. I'm always working. So I would always take some time and watch the Formula One race. And I just saw Lewis Hamilton get shafted like majorly, like majorly. It wasn't, I was really expecting like, okay, Max or Hamilton could come out of this, and I would be cool with it because I said to my wife beforehand, like, Max is going to be next up. I don't know if it's his time yet, but he's definitely coming. But the
Yeah.
way that race ended was so heinous, and it was so, to me, egregious. I was like, they just cheated an athlete. That's how I looked at it. It wasn't a white and black thing. It wasn't a Max and Lewis thing. It wasn't a Mercedes and Red Bull thing. It was an athlete. And I have competed several times in bodybuilding and other things. And I was like, they just cheated an athlete who truly earned it in this race. And they cheated him by breaking the rules. And I was sitting there on the couch like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, is this what's going to happen in this sport? And then, going back, and I started thinking about things that happened at Silverstone and how, racism came out. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to talk to this. I don't even know if it's going to cost me my subscribers or not, but you can't just let something like that go untalked about and think that it's going to be okay. So I can't anyway. I can't let it go by. So I talked about it. And then next thing I know, of course, I got attacked racially. I heard the N-word for about a week. But then there were a group of people that really came in and were like, it wasn't right. And I was embraced. And then somebody told me that I had no business being in Formula One because I was American and because I was black and because I was the N-word. And then after that, I'm the type of person, like, I don't run away from conflict. So I just told them, well, I guess from here on out, you're going to have to see me for every week, day in and day out. And then I just committed myself to it. So
I think everyone loved it as well because one people I'm very close with is Neely, and she actually suggested your name for the podcast, and then I checked it
oh,
out, and it was amazing. I loved your
well,
work,
shout
and
out there.
yeah, that's why I said ladies love your work because even Neely was saying ladies love his work.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So you
Really do.
mentioned about bodybuilding. Have you ever
Yeah.
competed in bodybuilding as well?
Yeah. I did NPC, AMBF. Most of I have awards and trophies. In my division of class, like most of the trophies they see behind me, I have those, and then I have my racing trophies. But from when I drag race, but then my last thing I had competed in bodybuilding and men's physique. So I'm real big on trying to take care of yourself, be healthy, and try to eat right. Have your fun and eat stuff too. But it's a balance in life. And if you want to try to enjoy life, you definitely have to take care of yourself, because that's where everything starts. You get up in the morning, you got to deal with yourself first. If you're not happy with yourself, then that's kind of how your day starts off. It's kind of negative already because internally and emotionally, you're not in a good spot. And if you don't love yourself well, it's hard for you to love somebody else or something else. So, I like, I'm into that. And of course, things took a turn in my life where I couldn't compete anymore health-wise, that I still battle and deal with. And that is what it is. But I still charge on different fronts.
Well, I competed in Sri Lanka for one of the
Mm,
competitions that they had, women's physique,
there you go.
and yeah, and I gave up on that because, well, the situation in Sri Lanka is very different when it comes to the international meets that we have.
Okay.
Because here there's a lot of nepotism going on. So
Got you.
even though if you're having a proper body proportions and the muscle definitions or anything, it doesn't matter. The judges will be giving it to whoever they prefer. So there's that
Right.
as well.
That does happen. I think if you are a judge, you should not be able to have clients that are competing in that same competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that
But
should not
here
be
it's
allowed.
totally different. Yeah. And then the mental capacity for an athlete is very high because
Right.
here there's a lack of knowledge when it comes to bodybuilding competitions and the bodybuilders as well. So the knowledge is very important when it comes to the field, and we have almost from zero to none knowledgeable people here. Everyone is going, well, the majority of the people who are in the field are going through the experience, not the
Okay.
knowledge. So there's a high risk between that, because if you just look at the stage when they're all on the stage, half of the athletes are suffering from gynecomastia.
True. True.
So there's a huge difference. That's why I said in Sri Lanka it's very different when it comes to bodybuilding competitions and all, because health wise it's very unhealthy
It
because
is.
knowledge.
Yeah, you are completely right. I try to tell people all the time that it is very unhealthy because of the transition you have to take your body through to get as lean as you can to show that striation. So yeah, I tell people that all the time. It's not fun being 5.75% body fat.
Yeah, exactly. But it is what it is, and people never listen until it's way past the limit. So there's an issue with that, and the knowledge is everything. So people need to get knowledgeable about what they're doing, and if they know it if they know it correctly, then they can guide it through properly. So there's that.
Right.
So
Right.
getting back to the F1 F1 series, we
I
just took
like it.
another road.
Right. I like it. I like it. Scenery.
So, what has your take been on the season so far? Do you believe the new aero regs has it made it very, very worse?
I I don't, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's changed much. I just think it hasn't I don't think I'll say this. I don't think it's lived up to how they advertised it to us, for
Yeah.
one. I don't It definitely didn't give me what I had hoped to have seen, which is at least more teams. Now I did say Haas would be a mid competing team. And I also did say because of new regs, lower teams would have an opportunity here to compete mid-level or up until other teams probably got a handle on things, because one thing you can't change is somebody's learning curve. So we know there are certain teams on the grid that definitely have more money, more resources, smarter people because they have more money. So their learning curve will not be as broad as other teams. So while that transition is happening, you have to rely on a driver's ability and raw talent to basically reel in something that is untamed, which is this new car that we have. And while that's happening, then maybe you will have a mix up. Will that last a little bit for Williams and Haas?
Yeah.
Aston Martin and McLaren have been disappointing to me this season, as they haven't gotten a handle on things, and definitely Aston Martin still going through their rebranding of being copied cars from the pink Mercedes to now the green Bull, and they have not gotten a handle on things, nor have they been very competitive, at which I hope they would be. McLaren I'd hoped much for McLaren coming in, given at the end of last season, but they definitely have not reached levels in which I did. And then we got Ferrari, who comes along, after having a down year after that investigation or that audit, whatever they want to call it. And they seem to not be able to get a handle on their own situation and can't get out of their own way. And then Mercedes, I'd probably say the most impacted team out of any other team on the grid with the new regs, being Mercedes, also part in the fact that they adopted a design that is completely abstract but may pay out very big dividends. And I also will give them credit for being able to turn that corner mid-season, whereas other teams may not have been able to even do that amount of progress within this amount of time. They are turning the corner. So at first it looked like it was going to be a dumpster fire, and now it looks like, okay, they're actually understanding what they have on their hands and they're making progress. I mean, we have Lewis Hamilton 5 podiums back to back. We have Russell in a subpar car who has also been top 5 anytime he finishes a race. And with them being the example of, it can't just be the car, because everybody, including haters and all, said that the car was crap. But yet Mercedes has been able to be a top 5 team with a subpar car because their drivers are that good, especially when you have the GOAT. All right, they're that good. Ferrari has proven the other way around. When the car is at its best, their drivers seem to make mistakes that cost their team, but they volley that back and forth. And then you have Red Bull being the stronger team out of the 3 top teams and out of the grid. with the fact that their car landed in a good spot. Now I know we have the controversy whether Ferrari and Red Bull were running floors that may or may not be illegal. That has not been completely proven. But I mean, where did they get the measurements from? If you know certain teams are breaking a rule of 2 millimeters more than that, you have to have got these measurements from somewhere. So I would like to know which teams you pulled those measurements from to say that we have teams are going over 4 millimeters of flexing when it's only supposed to be 2 millimeters. But period. Red Bull's been competitive. They're in the lead, and they're doing well in this new era so far. And Mercedes is gaining ground while Ferrari is losing it. So the new era hasn't really changed much, right? I mean, this is pretty much what we had last season. Red Bull.
Yeah, I think only the size of the car has changed.
Right, and the wheels. So yeah, pretty much.
So getting back to these Red Bull and their racing, we've
Yes.
talked on this podcast recently about the disgraceful behavior demonstrated by some of the, I'm going to say some of the Red Bull fans, because there are a
Right.
few Red Bull fans that I closely know as well, like Dr. Orbs and Engine Mode 11 and Break. I mean,
Right.
they're not racist or jackasses, but
Right.
the majority are. So, by some of the Red Bull fans at Austria and Hungary. What do you think the FIA, Liberty Media, and social media need to do to combat this discriminatory behavior?
Uh, I think it's not an isolated thing that they need to look at. I had spoke to, and I'm going to definitely get to that. I had spoke to when they were going to Saudi. Like I felt, and I voiced this on one of my episodes, that a young lady, not even a woman yet, age 17, had been beheaded by her cousin, whom she was forced to be married to. Within a month's time of Formula One going there, and I felt like they shouldn't go there. Like, why should we go there when women are being treated horribly? And this is something that they practice. This is something that happens there often. Like, I just don't feel that. So it would seem that Formula One still went there. And when they went there, they ended up essentially being held hostage there with the bombing that happened during one of the practices, you know, being told that it wouldn't be so easy if they did not have the race, and they tried to leave before having the race. Essentially, that's in the nice words being said, you're not leaving until you do this race. And if you do try to leave, it's not going to be good for you. That's pretty much a hostage situation. So then you come to these racial issues where, you know, these people are burning hat. Now, I'm not going to say burning merch is like racist, but it's the intent. Like, what is your intent? Like, what is your purpose? Why are you doing this? And why would you be attacking this person so maliciously, other than the fact that we know the big factor is that they're Black? Like, you're not doing that for anybody else. They're not telling anybody else to retire early when Alonso has the longest career in Formula One history. Why is he not being told to retire? He hasn't been in the podium, hasn't won a championship in damn near forever. Why not him retire? You know, you say this about Lewis Hamilton, and it's just crazy that people want to skip over that. Like, people try to tell you you're playing the race card. No, it's not race card. It's just racist. And the FIA need to start doing things like, you know what? We're not gonna bring a GP there. Like, with things that heightened, we're gonna let you simmer down, let you decide whether you want to be racist or do you want to be somebody who enjoys a race with many races. Like a race with many races of people, and enjoy the fact that people that come from a different walk of life, people that look different than you, people that have different religions than you, maybe people that all do all of these things can come together in one place and enjoy something that is so beautiful and have a good time together, because that's really what it should be. And the FIA needs to step in and do something about it, but I don't think they are, because at the end of the day, I think money is the ruler of all evil. And to them, controversy brings money on both sides. And I think that's something that they've weighed out, and they'd rather invest in controversy and that than invest in something that is going to impact their pockets for some time before it may come back. Because you got to know, if you do that, then there's going to be a lot of people that are, and that would tell you like your demographic too, right? If you did that and a lot of people just decided to not invest in Formula One, not come to races, not invest in the drivers, then you would see what happened, and then you'd have to recover from that. I don't think that's something that they want to recover from. So I don't think they're going to do anything. But if they did something, it would be not holding races in certain venues and let those people know we're not going to tolerate those type of actions or characteristics.
What's your reaction being to the Drive It Out campaign against discrimination being pushed by the FIA? Is this the right move? Should F1 be doing more?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Formula One should be doing more. Without a doubt, they should be doing more. Your whole thing is to have a grid of drivers that represent different parts of the world.
Yeah.
That's essentially that is what you're supposed to have. I would like to see if we could even an African driver. I know we got China with Zhou. I know people need to also understand this, especially with me being military. I know Russia as a whole, when we look at it, is like those are some awful people, right? But that's not so much. There are people that live in Russia that think just like us, that have to be judged by their governing body making these decisions. There are people on the ground that live in these houses, go to work just like us, that don't want any of this. And it's just not correct to assume that all of Russia is horrible. It's not true. Just like in the US, we got our situations too, right? I mean, you look at the US with everything going on, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Philando Castile, like all of these situations, the United States is not by far innocent of anything. And I mean, let's not get things twisted. Importation of Black Africans to slave and labor to build this country. So I don't let us as Americans off the hook for 1 minute. But if that's something that you want to correct, that's something that we're going to need to do, and we need outreach programs to do that. And one thing I've definitely campaigned for, especially I just had Joshua on, young Carter, who's going to be coming up. Hopefully he reaches Formula One, is they need more programs to reach out. And this is not just for Black kids, but kids that are not financially as equivalent as majority of the grid, that don't have $1 billion and $1 million parents that can fly them in on helicopters to participate in this sport. Lewis Hamilton, the greatest Formula One driver, and I'm going to say that, and I know people might debate it, that's fine. But even if you say that, you still have to say he's one of, if not the greatest driver in Formula One, did not come by the way of money. Anthony Hamilton had to work, and give him subpar equipment, and Lewis had to be great in that equipment. There are other kids out there that would be great drivers, and we will never get to see them because they don't have millions of dollars to participate in this sport. Formula One needs to create a program that will allow some way, some doorway, some gleam of hope for these kids to have an opportunity to get into a kart, to prove the talent, the ability they have, for other teams to see like that right there is something special. We need to get behind it, but they won't. Just like Mike talked about on the show, you're talking about $15,000 for a 3-day weekend to participate in a race at the karting level. Not even I can afford to pay $15,000 for multiple weekends for my kid to participate in karting. So that right there is something that Formula One needs to consider. What kind of great driver are we missing out on just because of this old boys club mentality? And they need programs for that.
And absolutely right. I agree. Because when you were saying that, I just remembered one of these posts that I saw years ago. It said, I quote, the cure for the cancer might be in one who are too expensive to study. The education is too expensive to study, and we will never know the cure because of that. So
Right.
It's actually true. I mean, there are hundreds and millions of kids who are very smart, really, really smart, but they don't have the necessity to go further. I mean, even the university degrees are very expensive, so they can't afford it. Just like that, there are many talented drivers as well. So there are many talented drivers who are very capable of winning any title with their skills and talents, but they don't have the financial need. I mean, not everyone has a stroll papa. So,
Right. Right.
yeah. So, and for Luis, exactly. His dad had to work to provide the kid to become the goat. And if
Right.
his dad didn't do that, Hamilton here. And every time the guy is racing, for most of the people, it's the guy. But if somebody else is racing, then it's definitely the guy, not the car.
The guy, right?
Yeah,
The double standard, right? The guy.
the guy. I mean, I have nothing against Sebastian Vettel, but when it comes
No,
to Sebastian Vettel, he's also representing issues and political issues and world issues, but that's not politics. But when Hamilton is saying that, that is politics.
exactly.
He's
There
bringing
you
politics
go.
into sports. So, why the double standards? Why do you
The
need
double
to
standard.
give yeah, I mean, if why can't you just look at everyone in the similar equal way? But nope, they have glasses when it's Hamilton, and even the glasses are not visible for them.
Right. That's a fact.
So, moving on to the next question. There's been a lot of drama in the early phases of this year's summer break. And I
Oof.
mean, come on, right? I mean, Formula One is always about drama now.
Right.
Yeah. So, Sebastian Vettel retiring, Alonso moving to Aston Martin, Piastri denying Alpine, and Daniel Ricciardo at risk of losing his seat for 2023. What have you made of all this madness? Do you think McLaren is making the right move by taking Piastri? Is
Okay.
Piastri in the wrong or right for leaving the driver program that's nurtured his career? And who would you like to see at McLaren and Alpine? And just to make the caveat of the question, is there any IndyCar driver you'd select?
Um. All right. So as far as McLaren, right? I think that McLaren is making the right move because Daniel has become a driver for the check, and I'm not mad at Daniel for getting the bag, right? But
Yeah.
let's just be honest. Since Daniel has left Red Bull from Renault and then to McLaren, he's been on a decline. He has not been. We cannot look at Daniel right now. If we compare Daniel right now to his Red Bull self, he's definitely taken some steps back. He hasn't been able to get there. I don't know if he's not mentally there. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it. I don't know if it's in him anymore. Maybe, you got to hit rock bottom before you can bounce up. And maybe in his self, mentally and emotionally, he hasn't hit that yet, but he definitely isn't hitting it for McLaren. So I'm not. I've said several times on the show, McLaren's on it. Danny's on his way out. Like I've already said that, and I know people are like, well, he's got a contract. Contracts are paper, and we all know organizations hold more power than athletes do, and they can do whatever they want to do. They'll find a way to get it done. As far as Piastri, I don't blame him for what he did. From what I understand, his contract was on the 31st. They hadn't responded just yet. Whether, that is confirmed or not, that is what I've heard. If that is the case, I would say that Piastri had made the right decision. If you nurtured my career all of this time, you have Alonso who really hasn't taken you anywhere. I understand he's a two-time champion with Crashgate, of course. We'll put that in there. But Alonso's not galvanizing anybody. He's not coming in and being a real leader ahead. Like this, it's not Lewis and the Russell combination. Like that's a combination. All right. Alonso's not that. So Alpine, if they really wanted to prove that they were ready and they wanted to commit to Piastri, you wouldn't even be worried about trying to sign Alonso to another 1 year. You would tell Alonso, like, okay, we're done. We're going to bring in Piastri. We're looking at the future. Do you want an opportunity to be a reserve, move to reserve driver, or do you want to go somewhere else? Those are your two options. You can step back or you can step off. Piastri definitely felt like that wasn't what they were doing if they really wanted him, and he made the best decision for him in his career to get into a seat. Why would he want to start his career off being loaned out to Williams? I understood it would have given him some experience, and then he would have returned to Alpine with Formula One or two seat experience on the track, and that really benefits Alpine, and it does give him some. But nobody wants to you don't really want to start your career off with one of the worst teams right now on the grid. And I think Piastri felt that he was better than that, and he just may be. He'll have to prove it, but no. So I definitely don't agree with that. I think Aston is wasting their time as well with taking Alonso on over there and giving him whatever he wanted, like he's some godsend. I don't think he's going to bring them what they need. They already have Lance there, and he's trying to, do his thing, and he's trying to find his way on the grid, and he's still growing and trying to do whatever he's going to do. And Alonso's not the guy to bring in and try to be competitive. So I don't really think. I think they're buying fool's gold there. If there was an IndyCar driver, I don't really keep up with IndyCar, so I don't know who it would be. But I'm looking for Sargent. I'm looking for an American driver to come. So Sargent, I want to see him come up. And honestly, I would have loved to see Williams get rid of Latifi, like maybe sign him to another year deal and find a way to start getting Jamie Chadwick up. Like, I want to see one of these teams give a woman the opportunity to prove that skill is there if given the proper equipment and the practice to bring her up and get her into a Formula One car. Like, I would love to see her next season for testing, Jamie getting an opportunity to be in a Formula One car to get a fill out. Like, people have to get over this whole thing. Like, it seems like the worst thing is to see like a woman in a man's sport. This is a car, and a car does not care about your sex. A car does not care about your gender. A car does not care about any of that. The only thing that car cares about is nothing. You make sure that you can do the best that you can with equipment. That's all it is, equipment. If she has the ability, then let her do it. And I feel like they need to give that an opportunity. So I'm really looking for it. If anything, I'm looking for her to be able to come up, or another woman that's competing at that level. I mean, she's won a championship every time you see a driver win, Formula 2 back-to-back or one time like Piastri. They're saying, oh, they smoking. Well, I mean, she's in the W Series. She's won back-to-back championships. Why isn't she bring her up the ranks? Bring her up. Formula 2, shit, bring her up. That's all I'm saying. So that's what I would really like to see.
When I was tweeting regarding Jamie Chadwick, some of the replies that I got was, "Oh, Jamie, I have nothing against women, but she's not F1 material." And I was like, "Have you even given her a chance to check whether she's the F1 material or not?"
Oh my gosh, she's not F1 material. What is F1 material made out of? It's made of people who are giving the opportunity to show that they have the ability to learn an equipment and operate it at a level. How do you know what she's made of if she's not given the opportunity to show you that her as a driver can operate the equipment? I mean, come on, let's stop doing that. People got to stop that. These shenanigans are ridiculous.
To be honest, I have no idea what they're talking. And even in the media, now they ask the same question. Oh, can Jamie get a seat? And they talk about the opportunities that why she should get a seat and this and that, but that's it. It's all talk and no action. It's only
And
word.
no action. Right. Now, if you bring her to Formula 2, I mean, I just can't believe that Jamie is worse than the worst driver in Formula 2. You just can't get me to believe. You're going to have to show me. And that's what I mean by you have to give people an opportunity. Like, what happens if you get her up to Formula 2 and she comes in and she's like, and what's really sad is she could come in and be midfield, and people are going to be like, oh, she's garbage. Like, how is that garbage? Because she's a woman, she's garbage because she didn't come out to be number one the first season. They'll say, oh, I told you she not even Formula 2 material. Why she's mid-tier? Like, you don't say anything else about the mid-tier drivers in back. That's the same thing like Bubba Wallace. The season before last or last season, he's running mid-tier track. Well, there are like 20 plus other drivers behind him that are worse than him, but you're saying Bubba Wallace is trash. Why? Because he's the only black driver in NASCAR, and he's running midfield, but he's trash because he's black, although there's like 20 or 15 other drivers behind him on a regular basis. So that is the mindset that people have to get around, because you and I do not have this mindset. Others do not have this mindset. But unfortunately, there are people that have more control in these organizations that have this mindset. And because of that, the growth of the sport is stunted and will not grant us some amazing opportunities. You don't know what Jamie could bring if you give her the opportunity. It could be amazing. And I would love I always say there's power in identifying and imagery. Jamie being brought up, or another woman, any woman being brought up that has the ability, I would love for other young girls to see that and know that they themselves have an opportunity, because the door is open and welcoming for you to come into this sport and compete as an athlete with the skill. It's open for you. If you have it, we will allow you to be here. But that's not happening right now. Right now, the door looks shut, and it seems like, oh, if I'm a girl, I can only get this high. They'll only let me get this high, and I don't like that.
Actually, it's crazy because I started getting very active on Twitter, even though I made this account in 2012 or 11 like that. I was never active on that. But I started becoming very active after Abu Dhabi shenanigans. So
Right.
something that I learned on Twitter, and when I was talking with Denzel and all the Black people that I got to know, is this weird set of mind that they see the skin colors as a different state or a different class of mind. And it's very, it was, for me it was shocking, and I still don't understand why. I still don't get the whole point behind it, because in Sri Lanka we don't have anything like that. uh,
Hmm.
among our people, we don't see any. I mean, of course, there are Black people who are traveling to Sri Lanka. There are white people who are traveling to Sri Lanka. The locals love them than any other local person. To be honest,
Right.
you're right. But I don't see the point behind putting a white person on top and saying, giving them a supremacy, saying some sort of a, a giving higher class or something. Like, I really don't get the theory behind it. It was so weird for me at first, and then Denzel was explaining what they had to do, and the parents advice that he got is, if somebody is working, then you have to work harder than that to
Right.
reach some level, and this and that. And I'm like, why do you have to do that? If they're
Right.
working in a normal level, why can't you just work on the normal level as well? So why are the people are like being selective like that? I really didn't get
Right.
that part. So even when arguments are raised, even when people are throwing out banters on Twitter, I'm like, why? Like, even when it comes to Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, like I mentioned, the political issues are only for Hamilton, and it's a great thing. Oh, we are going to miss Sebastian Vettel because he was talking for the world. But if Hamilton is talking about it, oh, that guy is only bringing political stuff to the sport, which should not be
Right.
doing that. So, the theory behind is ridiculous, to be honest. I don't understand that at all.
It is. It is ridiculous, and it unfortunately has been going on forever because there's a group of people out there that feel like they are superior to all. But it's funny that although you say you're superior, you need to include us in order to make things happen. So why not just get rid of that whole mindset altogether? But somebody's always have to be on top, and that's how they feel. But I think that should be left for sporting events only and not human people, like not humanity. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we deal with.
I mean, Malik was just telling us when he came on our podcast, and we were talking about racism in F1 as well. What he mentioned was, even in the US, there are days for the Black people, some of the communities, where the garbage is but getting collected, and but for the white people, every day there are garbage is getting collected. And I'm like, why? Why? It's very alienated for our
Goodness.
people, but it's a struggle for them. So
Right.
I didn't understand the theory behind Black Lives Matters and All Lives Matters at first.
Right.
And after talking to Denzel, because it from my side, for us, we don't understand that, Jay, because we don't have that, so we have absolutely no
Hmm.
knowledge on that. But after
Understood.
talking to a few people, I realized how bad it is here with
Right.
these few people, not the majority, but that few is making this in a huge scale, and the media is not backing it out. I mean, there are supposed to be journalists who are asking the right questions, but they always go for
Right.
the trends and they're not asking the right questions.
There you go. That is so
Um,
true.
yeah, I mean, just like Malik said the other day, if I was a journalist, if I had that media power on me, I would ask Nelson Piquet to come on my podcast, and I will ask those questions so that he would shut his mouth and realize that he is being a jackass, you know?
Right.
I mean, we can say, oh, he's a racist and this and that, or we should not give him the platform at all and this and that. No, we should give him the platform. We should take
Hmm.
him. We should bring him and confront him. Ask the
Right.
right questions from the person, and
That's
then
right.
he will understand that he can't run his mouth like that just because he has a white skin that's going to get way older very faster than a black man.
Right. That is true. That is a factual truth.
Yeah. Running back to the other question that I'm going to ask you, FIA have alluded to new technical directors regarding the flexi floors that we've been talking about, the loopholes being
Yes.
exploited by Ferrari and Red Bull. With those advantages being taken away, can Mercedes catch up in the development race?
Well, if I will say this, if indeed this is something that other teams have been doing, I had already questioned why they kept pushing the deadline back, right? So
Yeah,
now we're waiting until after the summer break, which gave those teams an additional 2 weeks plus these 3 weeks. You're giving them basically, like I said, they're giving them another month to get it together, which I didn't understand if you knew this, because even if you're saying everybody's trying to get a handle on this, well, surely you had regulations in place that said no more flexing than 2 millimeters front rear, period. Like, not pass the test at 2 millimeters and then you're flexing elsewhere. But this is what teams have done, right? We've seen Red Bull with the flexing wing, and some said about Mercedes having the flexi type wing. So teams have done this, but my thing is this: once you find out a team has done this, if you're gonna set a mandate, then you set it and you make it a hard date. You have to do that to be fair to everybody else. This is a hard date. You don't set a date, then we're pushing it back, then we're pushing it back. Well, now it looks like you're either bidding for somebody else or you're working for somebody else. Because the only two teams that would benefit, that are going to benefit from that, are only teams that are going to benefit from you pushing this back and pushing that back, is the teams that that are not adhering to the rules. So if this is true and these teams do come back with these floors, like some have speculated, and I say speculation because people are going to be like, oh, you can't prove it. Speculation. Perez has not, at the beginning of the season, been this far back from Max since we've heard this thing about the floors.
yeah,
Immediately after that, now there's a bigger gap between Perez and Max. So some have speculated, is Red Bull running their floor that is going to adhere to the regulations on Perez's car and not Max's yet, which would be the smart thing to do. All right, that would be the smart thing to do. But if that is the case, and we come back from the summer break and now Max's pace is off, then that's going to tell you something. To me, that's going to be a clear indication that the only thing that we know for certain that was supposed to change are the floors. So if Red Bull comes back and their pace falls short by a good amount, let's say 3/10, then there's an issue. All right, because Perez has surely been off Max. Now, some say because the Perez is off of Max because the car has gone away from him. That also may be true. Maybe that might be true. That's why I said speculation. But I do feel like it's not going to necessarily help Mercedes more than hurt teams that have not been adhering to the rules. If Mercedes has been adhering to the rules, which it seems, if that was the case, they'd be up on the other top three teams. So evidently there's more indication to show that they are. Then yeah, it just puts them in the position that they already are, but it brings the other teams back because they're in positions that they should have never been in the first place.
yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question as well, because we've been talking about Red Bull and Ferrari, and we did mention about their, slightly different strategies, which are called
Yes.
strategy. So
Mm,
this is a big year for Ferrari. Also, we thought there
yes.
was this animation I posted on Twitter as well. I found it on TikTok. Hamilton, Verstappen, and Russell are running forward.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, and Leclerc.
they're holding a stretch of pavement with Charles on the butt, but they're running the other way. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
funny. That was a good animation. That was funny. I thought that was hilarious.
So they finally had a winning car, and that's all they improved. Only the car. Do you
Hmm.
think that they still have a shot at the title? And if they improve their, the so-called strategies, that is, and what would happen to them? The consequences of them not improving at all.
I think I'm gonna say that it hasn't been the strategy along for the part of this season. It hasn't been strategy alone. We still have to, and I respect Charles for taking credit for his mistake, but that's not the first time he made a mistake. Let's also not forget that Carlos went about wrecking Ferrari shopping spree at the beginning of the season as he wrecked up many Ferraris. So I think there's a volleying type situation dynamic going on, from the drivers making their mistakes to them limiting their mistakes. And now the team and the strategy is failing the drivers. So I have to say Ferrari as an entire organization, drivers, engineers, strategists, all are failing at different parts of the season in different GPs. They still have the opportunity to get it together, but there is no doubt, there is a door's crack that a flea might not be able to fit through, going the rest of this season. Because let's also be real, racing is racing. When top teams fall out of races, the grid moves up, other teams benefit from that. So Red Bull has benefited from that. Mercedes has benefited from that. Everybody else benefited, but it's at a very small percentage, because we can look at the constructor points and driver points and you can see this. If Ferrari goes on a winning streak, they have the fastest car. It just hasn't proven reliable. They seem to employ these ridiculous strategies like pulling Charles in off good medium tires while he has the fastest lap and the fastest sector times, because you're getting pit stop punked by Red Bull and think you're going to do something miraculous, when all you have to do is do the same strategy other top teams are doing. Run your mediums, since you started on them, to the brink. Come in, you got 3 sets of softs. Charles had 2 sets of mediums. They put him on the second set, sent him out, caught him in early, so-called reacting to Red Bull when they didn't need to. And then he would have been on his softs the next pit and he would have been in podium position. Whether he won the race completely or not, Charles would have been on podium. Ferrari messed that up. Ferrari also messed up while getting in Carlos's ear while he's battling Perez for position. There's no reason to be talking to this man in the midst of him having a battle. Just wait until it's just, as an organization, Ferrari fails. And I don't know if it gets fixed, because it seems like Minotto's saying like it wouldn't have made a difference. Like they're like Thanos said, it seems like they're not capable of taking responsibility for their own mess ups. Bryson has said the same thing. It seems like they don't want to take responsibility for their mess ups. You can't have all these, call us content creators, but Bryson's an analyst, period. All right. And I know Cam, me, Nasha from Quickstop, Thanos, we've all pretty much said the same thing. They have to be able to look inside of themselves and say, yo, we are messing up. How are we messing up? And we need to face it and fix it. Charles did that very same thing when initially he said the pedal when he wrecked the car. When he got interviewed, he said, I made the mistake. That's what Binotto and the rest of the top wigs have to do. We are messing up and we're killing our drivers' opportunities at the driving championship, and we're definitely shooting ourselves in the foot for the constructor championship. That's what they're going to have to do to fix it. And if they don't come back after the summer and do something, Ferrari is done. They're not going to be in it. It's going to be a wrap. Mercedes will catch them. They'll be third in constructors. Mercedes will be second, and Red Bull will win the drivers' championship.
But you do realize that, F1 is an organization that is good at skipping on taking responsibilities and releasing templates, copy-paste statements regarding issues and all. And Ferrari is one of the oldest teams that is coming with F1 as well. So, taking responsibilities, I don't think that's part of them. I mean, not doing that, but
right. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. When you lay that logic down, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen at all. And the thing is, like, I think Carlos took Wreck-It Ralph too much close to his heart. So that's why he was on a wrecking spree.
Right. For real. Goodness gracious.
All right. So before I let you go, I'm going to ask you this one last question. Looking at the future, what are your thoughts on the next generation of drivers coming through from ethnic minority backgrounds? You recently made an inspiring vlog about young Joshua.
Hmm.
What caught your eye about this young future prospect, and what advice would you give to the parents out there who are willing to send the kids for the driving, for the sport as well, but they're lacking from the financial side as well?
I would say, I mean, it's hard for me to give them advice because they're actually in it. Like Mike and Delina are doing an awesome job, and people also have to understand Mike and Delina aren't hurting for anything. They've done well for themselves, and even with that, you heard Mike say how expensive it can be in certain things that they have to do. So it just tells you that, there needs to be something going on there. But I'm going to say, like Mike and Delina, they haven't quit. Joshua has committed himself to this. He pulls himself from doing regular lunch things to do his work so he can spend more time driving his car. When you listen to the young gentleman speak, you can tell that Joshua mentally is invested in being the greatest driver he can one day. Now I had to call him out because he said he was going to one up Lewis, and I give it to him that he probably might do it. You still got Hugo out there. You got a lot of drivers that, not a lot. You got a few drivers that are coming along that may show promise. And I'm just going to tell them, don't quit. Do not stop. Every door, hit it. There are people out here, institutions out here, organizations out here. You really need to start reaching out. They really need to start reaching out to U.S. entertainers. I hate to say it, musicians, actors, ball players, they need to start reaching out here and making themselves known to them so that they can understand the front that's being fought over there, because nothing is recognized like an athlete recognizing another athlete. And if you can get in touch with those, and I'm working on trying to bridge those gaps, I really am, and from my little position, it's a little harder, but I'm working on that. And if you can get that type of investment and backing, then you don't know what can happen. So don't quit doing what you're doing, because you are indeed on the forefront and we are on the back trying to find support for it. So just don't stop. Just keep charging forward.
That's amazing. And I am going to ask you to tell us about all the ways, all the places that we can find you and engage with you, including your YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, and, plug it in.
Definitely. Definitely. So on YouTube, you could definitely get with me. I have my links up there for the link tree. And if you go to the link tree will take you to an abundant amount of resources in which you can reach me. Podbean is the main platform for the podcast, but I also am circulated out to all major podcast platforms, whether that be Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, all of that. And if you go to Wolfpack Performance, podbean.com, you can find that link. Also, I'm on Twitter, so you can follow me over there and communicate with me over there. I stay on there pretty regularly. And also have songs out on Apple and iTunes. If you look at Wolfpack Performance, you'll find songs out there car related. I'm working on another song right now, trying to get it up for Formula One, but I got a lot of time making content, so it's hard to get in the studio and try to do that. But yeah, you get over to me on Twitter, Instagram for the car stuff as far as DIY. And yeah, you can reach me at all those platforms, definitely. And if you're looking for car parts and you're working on Hondas, Nissans, whatever that is, you can go to wolfpackperformance.net, get with me there, and hopefully I can get you suited up with the performance parts you need to do whatever you need to do on track.
And before you go, let's talk about your musician part, as I'd
Mm.
love to hear that as well. Because, I mean, you are a man with many talents, a bodybuilder, a car person, and a musician. What else do you have, man?
Yeah, I stay working. Like my grandmother's always said something, kid, you don't stay still. And I don't stay still. Like if I sitting still, I just feel like there's something I should be doing. So if you're trying to be the best you can be in life, whether you get there or not, you want to die trying. And I'm gonna die trying to be the best person I can be. So I'm always gonna stay moving. You can't win if you don't play. So I play all the time.
You're an inspirational character, and we'll love to hear from you. When Denzel is back, I would love to have you guys both together and do an episode later on. Hopefully,
Cool.
we can arrange something.
That'll work.
Good, great. So this has been your, like I said, I'm not your usual co-host or your unusual co-host. Both F1 Black and Denzel is out and above. And this is just your once in a blue moon co-host, Georgina Donna. You guys can follow up on YouTube and join the conversation on Twitter and, the social media stuff. So I'm going to end this episode with few of the words that Wolfpack Performance said himself. Don't quit. Do not stop. If you can't move past the wall, then break the damn wall and walk through it.